My name is Susan Elizabeth Tamlin, and I am an addicted alcoholic. I stand here before you today to share my story of addiction and how I found recovery in the Shale Life-Changing Program. For those of you that aren't aware, Shale Home is a division of Souls Harbor. It's a year-long treatment program for women suffering with addictions. I was born in 1975 and adopted at the age of 2.5. I was told my birth mother repeatedly lost me to care for the first year of my life. The second year of my life was spent in foster care. From this constant change in care, I developed a fear of rejection and a fear of abandonment, and an inability to trust people. It is said that the first few years of a young life is where babies learn attachment and love. I failed to learn these important characteristics and would not know love until my adoption. The occurrence would greatly impact me and the way I handled all of my relationships. My childhood with my new family was ideal. I grew up busy, enjoying many activities in sports, music, summers at our cabin, and experienced the love my young heart needed. I was happy and content. When I turned 13, my beloved grandma quietly passed away in her sleep. My grandma and I shared a very, very close relationship. She was a beautiful lady, and I adored her. Then one day, she was just gone. I became very angry at her for leaving me and very angry toward God for taking her from me. 13 is a tough age for any young girl, and my grandma's passing made it even more difficult, and it would be years before I grieved her death. Life at home was becoming more difficult as well. I directed my anger towards my family, especially my mom. In my grade 10 year, it was decided that I would attend Caronport High School, a boarding school, and I graduated in 1993. After high school, I was employed with the city of Regina. It was shortly after I began working that I went to a staff party and had my first drink. And I liked it. I had fun. I liked the illusion of self-confidence I felt after having a couple of drinks. I was able to talk and laugh and feel accepted by my peers. All through high school, I always felt inadequate, shy, and unable to connect. I felt like I wasn't important and had nothing important to say. Alcohol, I discovered, changed all that. Suddenly, I found that I could be fun and talkative and connect with a group of my peers, and all it took was a couple of drinks. And my pages are stuck together. That summer, I began to smoke marijuana and used LSD for the first time. I seemed to like anything that would alter my reality. My parents attempted to halt my behavior, but I wasn't going to let them get in the way of all the fun I was having. I completely rebelled, moved out, and told them I was going to get a life. And what a life I found. I would party every chance I would get, and soon I was calling in sick to work. I lost my job with the city. This would be the first of many lost employment opportunities. Then in 1996, I became pregnant. I stopped partying for the health of my baby and gave birth to a beautiful baby boy in June of 1997. When my son Zachary was 6 months old, I was back drinking when I could find a babysitter. Although I love my son deeply and never drank while he was with me, I still had intense feelings of loneliness and anger. I was soon smoking marijuana regularly once again to hide from the emotions that overwhelmed me. I returned to school in 1998, attending SciAst. I received my office education certificate, completed my internship, and then was employed by Saskatchewan, and it appeared that my future was secure. By the time my son was 4, I was back partying every weekend. In 2001, I released him into the care of my parents full-time. I wanted him to grow up in a stable and loving environment and knew that I couldn't provide that for him. I began dating a man whose main source of income was selling weed. I now had unlimited access at no cost to me to the drug of my choice. I would stay in a relationship with him for 9 years. I became pregnant again in 2002. Our relationship by then was pretty rocky. We were both emotionally and verbally abusive to one another. I moved out of his house and once again put the drugs and alcohol away from the baby. It was while separated from him that I decided to give my baby up for adoption. On September 11th, 2003, I gave birth to a gorgeous, healthy baby girl. I held her, told her I loved her very much, and then I walked away. That was the hardest day of my life, and although I believe I made the best decision for her, the pain and loneliness overwhelmed me. I left the hospital, went home, and immediately got high. I moved back in with my boyfriend and we started using cocaine. Our relationship completely fell apart. After a year of cocaine abuse, we finally separated, and this would be the longest relationship I ever had. I lived on my own for a while, and after losing more jobs, I just gave up and went on social assistance. I drank every chance I got and was still smoking weed every day. I would date men that would pay for my habits, but relationships never lasted long. In 2012, I met my husband. It was during our relationship that I started abusing cocaine daily. Smoking crack led to using needles. We were married in 2013 and separated 6 months later. In 2014, I attempted recovery at Shale Home, but relapsed after 4 months. It would be a year before I returned to Shale. A month before my return, I encountered the Love Bus, an inner-city ministry run out of Harvest City Church. I was heavily intoxicated and don't remember a whole lot, but I remember that I received prayer. I believe my encounter with the Love Bus was orchestrated by the hand of God. Although I would delay it 1 more month, I consider that night to be the beginning of my path into my journey of recovery. Every morning after this encounter, I had a voice in my head saying, it's time to go back. It's time to go back to Shale. It's time to go back. What I now believe to be the voice of God called to me every day. Alcohol and drugs could not make it go away. So finally, I just threw my hands up and said, fine, I hear you. I called Shale Home, or Kathy. The resident manager informed me a bed was available. On April 1st, 2016, I re-entered the life-changing program. I was broken, lost, angry, fearful, and spiritually dead. The most difficult aspect was admitting I could not overcome this addiction on my own. I needed Jesus Christ. I needed the help of staff and the tools that Shale Home was offering to equip me with. Basically, I had to lay aside my pride and receive the help being offered. I submitted my life to God's authority, embraced staff, and then I began to face my fears. I believe my addictions are a result of bearing emotional trauma I experienced and the fears I developed. Shale Home is unlike any other treatment program I have experienced. Honestly, a lobotomy would have been easier. Shale's complete focus is beyond overcoming addiction. It guides me into a healthier way of thinking, created structure and balance in my life, and it taught me how to use the tools of recovery they equipped me with. I learned how to create boundaries. I've learned how to overcome negative thought patterns with positive ones. Through working the Life Change program, I was able to establish and address the root issues which led me to using drugs and alcohol to cope. The aspect of Shale Home that I appreciate the most is that it is a Christian-based program. Returning to Shale enabled me to restore my relationship with God. It is only by the grace of God, by His strength, and unconditional love have I been able to journey this far into recovery. I am grateful to God for all He has done for me. I am grateful to the staff at Shale, who daily encourages me and helps me to be who God intended me to be. I am grateful for my son, Zachary. He is a blessing, and he motivates me to persevere. And my parents. And my parents, who never stopped loving me, never gave up believing in me, and were always, always there for me. I'm very grateful that God is healing and restoring the relationships in my family. I am grateful to be no longer enslaved by drugs and alcohol. Today, I look to the future, and I see hope. I have conquered many hills, but I still have mountains to climb. But I trust that God will continue to strengthen me. He will lift me as I stand on His promises. Thank you. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future." The Lord met me in my darkest hour. and shattered the darkness with his love. I stand here today sober, stronger, healthier, and fearless. I am an overcomer in Christ Jesus.